see the continued overreach of the federal government. And in Montana, we believe in our Constitution, and in particularly the Second Amendment. It's very clear. It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If the federal government steps beyond the bounds of our U.S. Constitution and starts to infringe on our rights to keep and bear arms, law enforcement in Montana do not have to enforce those unconstitutional rules.
We got stuff flying around in our airspace. We got trains derailing. We're looking like a bunch of soft babies to China at this point. And we are spending this much time on disarming Americans. It's ridiculous. And it's got to stop. No one is going for it, even law enforcement. What's up, everyone? Before we get started today, big thanks to our sponsor for today's video, Smith & Bradley Watches. Now, they sent me one out. This is the Sands 13 Tactical Watch. And I gotta say, I'm a big watch guy and I absolutely love this thing. Now, these watches are built to withstand pursuits, punishing environments, and also demanding jobs. That being said, they're at home just as much in the boardroom as they are in the field. Now, they have a whole bunch of different options to suit any taste. And something that might be even better than the watch is their unstoppable guarantee, which means that if anything happens to this watch, they'll either repair it or replace it. Now, there's gonna be a link below the video. You can use my code COUNTRY to get an additional 20% off at checkout. You're not gonna find a better watch and a better deal out there. Everyone, welcome back. Hope everyone's doing well. If you're new here, subscribe. You will not regret it. Or you will if you don't like guns, but that's pretty goofy if you ask me. That being said, if you live under a rock, you're probably not aware that the ATF has been busy banning a certain kind of plastic and Velcro from sitting on your shoulder. And you know, I gotta say, it's really kind of goofy. And Lauren Boebert, I think that's how you say her name, said it perfectly.
The ATF's new pistol brace rule violates the separations of powers. Bureaucrats don't create laws. Congress does. This rule functions like a law that Congress never passed. ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. In Western Colorado, we call that a fun weekend.
They just make a rule. And our forefathers who created the Second Amendment, who created our Constitution, they're in their graves about to jump out because some agency that hired some idiot who has no knowledge on the possible dangers out there for Americans if they are not armed, just decided to say, oh, well, they spent their hard-earned money on a gun and now we're going to make a rule. And you know what? They can deal with it. So I'm not going to go through all the regulations and what you have to do, but essentially if you have a pistol brace, you either have to register it or you can get rid of it. But you know, we do have one good thing going for us, and there's obviously been a lot of back and forth as far as the support for the police in this country. And here's what I'll tell you, and here's my opinion. 100% support as long as you do not enforce gun laws. Your job is to uphold the Constitution. It is not to be the ATF's teacher's pet. It's not. There are so many other things that actually matter that you could be doing other than, oh, the ATF wants to go check out this guy's house. We got to follow him over and make sure he's safe. Yeah, the dude has done nothing wrong. No, don't waste your time with it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be put in a dangerous situation because Americans love their guns. And also you're going to lose the support from all the people who own guns. So it's a lose-lose. But anyways, the positive is that a lot of sheriffs have came out and said that they will simply not enforce the ATF's new ruling on these stabilizing braces. Now, I'm not going to tell anyone what to do, but if you're in a county where the sheriff is like, no, we're not going to enforce these laws, well, you're pretty much set, so good for you. Let's listen to this sheriff.
The thing that really bothers me about it is the strong rulemaking ability that this bureaucratic agency has. The ability to, with a strike of a pen, potentially make me or another citizen a felon.
That's a good point, because while police officers are technically law enforcement, I don't think they're exempt from a rule that the ATF makes unless it's issued from their department. So that means that if a police officer went and bought a rifle with a stabilizing brace, the ATF could technically go to their house and arrest them for a felony. Isn't that nuts? That's nuts.
The part that causes a lot of pain for most people is this retroactive angle where it's, we allowed you to do it, and now you're stuck with this thing and you're really wringing your hands. What do I do with this?
That's a very good point. I remember a few years ago talking to my buddy, asking him, hey man, What next gun are you gonna buy? He told me, well, I'm looking at a pistol AR. Gave me a great idea, I bought one. We were allowed to do it, it was legal. We have an agency who hires a whole bunch of nerds that say, oh, well, how can we just push the envelope a little bit more today? And now it's illegal through a rule? Now I have a question. I think the ATF is honestly gonna run into some issues with this. If you arrest one person and charge one person with this stabilizing brace, and my God, I hope they have video of it, or someone gets it on the news, or somewhere to where we can see it. That means that for you to be fair and consistent, you are going to have to arrest millions of Americans. You can't do one and not do the rest. You can't do it. Because a judge is going to look at it and say, okay, how many of these are in the US currently? How many of them were forfeited? How many of them were destroyed? An ATF agent's going to say, well, we don't know because there are over 40 million of them. People aren't going to document if they threw them out or not. They're not going to call the ATF and say, hey guys, I saw your rule, just want to let you know I threw out my stabilizing brace and also fuck you. They're not going to do that. How many people are actually going to register them? 0.00001% if you're an idiot. And then some people are just going to have a longer barrel installed, which means that you're going to have documented that 0.00001% or however many it is registered them. So your lone wolf that you went out and arrested and said, we're arresting you for a stabilizing brace, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have a mutiny on your hands. Every American who's bought one of these is going to stand up for that guy. It's not going to happen.
Assault weapons ban, you brought up the assault weapons ban, but back in 94 to 2004, in that 10-year period, if you had a gun that was in that ban, you were grandfathered. You know, when it actually increased the value of your gun, it was a pre-ban gun.
No, I don't really believe in the whole grandfather system. I mean, it sounds better, but really what we're doing is we're just complicating our Second Amendment. It's simple. If law enforcement is scared that a law-abiding American has a gun that is equal force to what they have, you don't train enough. If you are not prepared to go into a gunfight or to have an interaction with someone who has equal firepower as you, and you are not confident that if it came down to it, you would walk out of there alive and that they would be dead, you are not trained enough, or you just don't belong in law enforcement. But here's what all these ATF idiots don't get. Americans are not insane. I'm not opening my door with my AR pointed at the door every single time. Now, if you somehow get onto my land and knock on my door at 2 a.m., that's different. But we are peaceful people until we are forced not to be. And the fact that the ATF just doesn't trust us, there are more of us than you. Which means that it doesn't matter what you think, it doesn't matter what you trust. You have no choice.